All right, guys, let's start with the big picture because on paper, Bellevue and Kirkland actually look pretty similar. They're both located on the east side of Seattle. They're both highly desirable. They're both close to major employers like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta. And honestly, if you move to either one, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be happy. But once you actually spend some time in these cities, you realize they have completely different personalities. Bellevue feels like the east side's downtown. It's bigger, busier, and honestly feels more like a true city. You've got high-rise buildings, luxury condos, major shopping centers, corporate offices, and a lot of ongoing development. When people relocate here from places like California, Texas, Arizona, or even other major metro areas around the country, Bellevue often feels familiar because it has that modern urban feel while still being incredibly clean and well maintained. Kirkland is different though. Kirkland feels a lot more relaxed, a little more community-oriented, a little more connected to the water. And one of the things I love about Kirkland is that it doesn't necessarily feel like you're living in the middle of a major metropolitan area. You've got waterfront parks, walkable neighborhoods, local restaurants, coffee shops, and areas that still have a little bit of that small town charm despite being right in the middle of the east side. And honestly, every time I take clients down to the Kirkland waterfront for the first time, they're usually pretty surprised. A lot of people don't realize how much waterfront access Kirkland actually has. Now, as someone who grew up on the east side and now I'm raising my own family here with my wife and 2 boys, I can tell you both cities are incredibly popular with people relocating to the area. The biggest difference I see is usually the lifestyle. People who love the idea of being close to shopping, restaurants, entertainment, and having basically everything at their fingertips often gravitate towards Bellevue. But people who want more of a waterfront community feel and a little more laid-back atmosphere often end up loving Kirkland. Neither one is right or wrong, they're just different. And honestly, that's why this comparison is so important because sometimes 2 cities can be only a few miles apart and offer completely different living experiences. All right, let's talk about the thing that tends to get everyone's attention real quickly, home prices. Because Bellevue and Kirkland are both among the most expensive cities in Washington state. So regardless of which one you choose, you're definitely shopping in one of the most competitive housing markets in the Pacific Northwest. Now, generally speaking, Bellevue tends to be the more expensive of the two. Right now, the average sale price for a single family home in Bellevue is roughly $2.4 million, while Kirkland comes in closer to that $1.8 million. That's a pretty significant difference at first glance, but here's where it gets interesting. When people look at those averages, they often assume Bellevue's more expensive and Kirkland is affordable. The reality is a little more complicated than that. Both Bellevue and Kirkland have 2 very different markets depending where you are in the city. In both cases, the closer you get to Lake Washington, the more expensive things tend to become. In Bellevue, areas like West Bellevue, Clyde Hill, Maidenbower, Enetai, and other neighborhoods near downtown Bellevue are some of the most expensive real estate in the entire state. This is where you'll find luxury estates, waterfront homes, custom builds, and high-end condos. Now, Kirkland has a similar story. Once you get into downtown Kirkland, west of Market, Houghton, Yarrow Point, and nearby many of the waterfront neighborhoods along Lake Washington, prices can climb very quickly. Some of these homes rival Bellevue pricing and in some cases even exceed it. So when buyers compare Bellevue and Kirkland, I always encourage them to think of each city as having multiple sub-markets rather than one giant market. Now, if you're looking for slightly more attainable options, both cities have neighborhoods that can provide a little more value. In Kirkland, many buyers start looking at areas like Juanita, Finn Hill, Kingsgate, or Totem Lake. These neighborhoods can often provide a little more house for your money while still keeping you close to, that Lake Washington, downtown Kirkland, the restaurants, parks, and everything that makes Kirkland so popular. Bellevue also has some similar opportunities as well. Many buyers focus on neighborhoods like Lake Hills, Crossroads, Eastgate, Newport Hills, and Phantom Lake. These areas can sometimes offer a lower entry point compared to West Bellevue while still giving you access to Bellevue schools, shopping, parks, and employment centers. Now, I do want to be careful with the word affordable because we're still talking about Bellevue and Kirkland here. Neither city is truly inexpensive, but compared to some of the luxury neighborhoods near the lake, these areas can offer significantly more value and may allow buyers to get a larger home or lot size for their budget. And honestly, I see buyers struggle with this decision all the time, because sometimes they'll start out focused on Bellevue, then spend an afternoon walking along the Kirkland waterfront and completely fall in love with the atmosphere. Or the opposite happens. They think, hey, I want Kirkland. They spend some time in downtown Bellevue, see the restaurants, shopping, and convenience, and realize that's really the lifestyle they're looking for. So when you're comparing prices, don't just compare square footage. Think about the lifestyle that comes with living in that city and living in that home, because that's usually what ends up driving the decision in the long run. And honestly, if you're trying to figure out which Eastside city makes the most sense for your budget, that's a conversation we have with people all the time. Whether you're moving next month or next year, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction. Now, obviously, price is only one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about what the commute actually looks like. All right, let's talk about something that can have a huge impact on your day-to-day life here, and that's the commute, because honestly, one of the biggest reasons people choose Bellevue or Kirkland comes down to where they're working and how much time they want to spend in their car. Now, if we're looking strictly at convenience and freeway access, I'd probably give the edge to Bellevue. Bellevue is kind of the transportation hub of the East Side. You've got I-405 running through the city. You've got I-90 just south of Bellevue. You've got State Route 520 connecting Bellevue to Redmond and Seattle. And with the light rail continuing to expand throughout the East Side, Bellevue is becoming even more connected. So if you're someone who needs to get to Seattle, Redmond, Issaquah, Renton, or just bounce around the East Side regularly, Bellevue is hard to beat. A lot of the people relocating here are working for companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, or other tech companies throughout the region, and Bellevue sits right in the middle of all of it. Now, Kirkland is still incredibly convenient. In fact, if you're working at Microsoft in Redmond, some parts of Kirkland can actually be one of the easiest commutes on the entire East Side. The thing about Kirkland is your commute experience depends heavily on which part of Kirkland you're in. In areas like Juanita, Finn Hill, Kingsgate, or Totem Lake, getting to Bellevue or Redmond is usually pretty straightforward. But if you're closer to downtown Kirkland or along the waterfront, you may spend a little more time working your way back towards 405 before getting to where you're going. Now, one thing I always tell buyers is not to underestimate the value of living close to where you spend most of your time. So saving 10 or 15 minutes each way might not sound like much, but over the course of a year, that adds up a lot of extra family time. And trust me, I've got 2 boys, and I can tell you those extra minutes matter. Whether it's making it home for dinner, getting to a soccer game, or just having a little more free time in the evening, commute quality can have a bigger impact on your lifestyle than people initially realize. Commute verdict. If you're looking for the most central location with the best overall access to the East Side and Seattle, Bellevue probably gets the win. But if you're working primarily in Redmond, Kirkland, or the northern part of the East Side, Kirkland can be just as convenient while offering a completely different lifestyle. Now, obviously, people aren't moving to the Pacific Northwest because they want shorter commutes. They're moving here because of the lifestyle, the scenery, and all the outdoor recreation. So let's talk about one area where both Bellevue and Kirkland really shine. One thing I absolutely love about both Bellevue and Kirkland is that despite being located in the middle of a major metro area, you're never very far from nature. And honestly, this is one of the many reasons so many people fall in love with the East Side. You can leave work, drive 10 minutes, and be out walking a waterfront trail, sitting in a park, or enjoying views of Lake Washington. Now, Bellevue and Kirkland both offer great outdoor amenities, but they do it in different ways. Let's start with Bellevue. Bellevue has some absolutely incredible parks. Downtown Bellevue Park is probably one of the most recognizable. It's right in the heart of downtown Bellevue and offers walking paths, open green space, and a really unique atmosphere, considering you're surrounded by skyscrapers. You also have places like Maidenbower Bay Park, which gives you waterfront access right next to downtown. Mercer Slough Nature Park is another local favorite and offers miles of trails, kayaking opportunities, and a completely different side of Bellevue that many people don't realize even exists. Another local favorite is Bellevue Botanical Garden. We actually like going during the holidays for their annual Garden Delights event. It's one of those fun family traditions where you can grab a hot cocoa, meet up with friends, and walk through all the holiday lights throughout the garden. My boys always have a blast, and it's a great opportunity to get outside and enjoy the season even during those colder months. It's also one of those things that reminds you that Bellevue isn't just about tech companies and skyscrapers. There's a lot of community-oriented stuff happening throughout the year as well. So to wrap up Bellevue, it's a city that checks a lot of boxes. You've got great parks, great amenities, and easy access to just about anywhere on the east side. Now, Kirkland is where things start to feel a little different, because Kirkland's biggest advantage is Lake Washington. The waterfront is a huge part of everyday life there. You've got Marina Park right in downtown Kirkland, Juanita Beach Park, Waverly Beach, Houghton Beach, multiple waterfront parks connected by walking paths and trails. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why so many people fall in love with Kirkland. There's just something about being able to grab a coffee, walk along the water, watch boats go by, and enjoy views of Seattle across the lake. It just really gives Kirkland a completely different feel than most East Side cities. As someone who grew up on the East Side and now has 2 young boys, some of our favorite family outings involve heading down to the waterfront parks around Kirkland and just letting the kids run around while enjoying the views. It doesn't necessarily feel like you're in the middle of a major metropolitan area. It feels like a waterfront community, and that's one of Kirkland's biggest strengths. If you're looking for variety, Bellevue probably wins. You've got urban parks, nature preserves, waterfront access, sports fields, and everything in between. But if you're someone who loves waterfront living, lake views, beach parks, and spending time near the water, Kirkland is really hard to beat. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest lifestyle differences between the 2 cities. Now, speaking of lifestyle differences, let's talk about the area where Bellevue and Kirkland probably feel the most different. And that's their downtowns. Because while both cities have great restaurants, shopping, and entertainment, they offer completely different experiences. Now let's talk about the area where Bellevue and Kirkland probably feel the most different, and that's their downtowns. Because honestly, if I took someone who's never been to the East Side before and dropped them into downtown Bellevue and then downtown Kirkland on the same day, they might be surprised these cities are only a few miles apart. They offer 2 completely different experiences. Let's start with Bellevue. Downtown Bellevue feels like the business and entertainment hub of the East Side. You've got high-rise buildings, luxury condos, major office towers, shopping centers, hotels, and some of the biggest employers in the region, all packed into one area. One of the biggest attractions is Bellevue Square, along with Lincoln Square and the Bravern. Whether you're looking for shopping, restaurants, coffee shops, happy hours, movie theaters, or just somewhere to spend an afternoon, there's always something going on. And one thing I hear all the time from people relocating here is that they're surprised by how clean and well-maintained downtown Bellevue feels. It has a much more polished and modern feel than what many people expect. Now, if you're someone who likes being in the middle of the action, having restaurants within walking distance and enjoying more of an urban lifestyle, downtown Bellevue can be really appealing. But then you head over to Kirkland and the vibe changes completely. Downtown Kirkland feels much more like a waterfront town instead of high rises and office towers. You're greeted by waterfront parks, local restaurants, coffee shops, boutiques, and people walking along Lake Washington. One of my favorite things about downtown Kirkland is how easy it is to spend an entire afternoon there without really having a plan. You can grab a coffee, walk along the waterfront, stop into a few local shops, grab lunch, and just enjoy being near the water. And honestly, that's what a lot of people fall in love with. It feels relaxed, it feels walkable, and it feels connected to the lake in a way that very few East Side cities do. Now, don't get me wrong, Bellevue has some incredible waterfront areas too, but the waterfront is really woven into the identity of Kirkland. It's a huge part of what makes the city feel unique. Downtown Verdict, if you're looking for a more urban lifestyle with luxury shopping, major restaurants, entertainment, and a city feel, Bellevue is definitely going to be your choice. If you're looking for that waterfront charm, walkability, local business, and a little more of that community feel, Kirkland is tough to beat. Neither one is better, they're just catering to different lifestyles. And honestly, this is usually where people start narrowing down their search. If you're watching this and still trying to figure out which East Side city is the right feel free to reach out. Sometimes a quick conversation can save you hours of researching online because every buyer's situation is a little bit different. Now let's pull everything together and talk about who I think Bellevue is really best suited for. Now let's talk about something that probably doesn't get discussed enough when comparing cities, and that's what everyday life actually feels like. Because at the end of the day, you're probably not hiking a mountain every weekend, and you're probably not spending all your time commuting either. A lot of life comes down to, the little things. Where you grab coffee on a Saturday morning, where you meet friends for dinner, where you take your family when they're visiting from out of town. And honestly, this is another area where Bellevue and Kirkland offer two very different experiences. Let's start with Bellevue. Bellevue probably has the edge when it comes to overall variety. You've got everything from casual restaurants and family-friendly spots, all the way up to some of the nicest dining experiences on the East Side. Because Bellevue has become such a major business and employment center, there's a huge variety of restaurants throughout the city. You'll find just about every type of cuisine you can think of. And one thing I personally like is whether you're looking for a quick lunch, date night, happy hour, or somewhere to bring your clients, Bellevue has plenty of options. Then you add in Bellevue Square, Lincoln Square, and all the surrounding retail and entertainment options. And there's usually always something going on. It definitely has an energetic feel. Now, Kirkland is different. Kirkland's restaurant scene feels a little more local and a little more connected to the community. One of my favorite things about Kirkland is that so many of the restaurants are tied into the waterfront experience. You can grab dinner, walk along the lake afterwards, stop for ice cream, or just sit and enjoy the views. And honestly, that's a big part of why so many people fall in love with Kirkland. It feels like somewhere you want to slow down and just spend some time there. A lot of restaurants, coffee shops, and gathering spots feel very connected to the community. You see people walking around, meeting friends, spending time with family, and just enjoying being outside. But it's just a completely different vibe than Bellevue. It's not better, just different. If Bellevue feels more energetic and fast-paced, Kirkland feels a little more relaxed and laid back. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons buyers tend to gravitate toward one city or the other. If you enjoy having endless restaurant options, luxury shopping, entertainment, and a little more energy around you, Bellevue is tough to beat. But if you love waterfront dining, local coffee shops, walkability, and a more relaxed community feel, Kirkland has something really special. And honestly, this section probably sums up the biggest difference between these two cities. Bellevue feels more like a city. Kirkland feels more like a waterfront community. Neither one is right or wrong. It just comes down to the type of lifestyle you're looking for. So we've talked about home prices, commutes, parks, downtowns, restaurants, and overall lifestyle. Now let's pull everything together and talk about who I think Bellevue is really best suited for and who might be a better fit in Kirkland. Now, after everything we've talked about so far, let's pull this all together and talk about who I think Bellevue is really best suited for. Because honestly, when people reach out to me about relocating to the Seattle area, they're usually not asking, what's the best city? They're asking, what's the best city for me? And that's a completely different question. Now, if you're someone who values convenience, Bellevue is incredibly hard to beat. You have easy access to Seattle, easy access to Redmond, easy access to Kirkland, Issaquah, Renton, and just about everywhere else on the East Side. So if you're someone who expects to be driving all over the region, Bellevue's location is a huge advantage. I also think Bellevue is a great fit for people who enjoy having a lot of amenities nearby. If you like being close to great restaurants, shopping, entertainment, coffee shops, gyms, parks, and everything else that comes with city living, Bellevue gives you a lot of those options. And one thing I hear quite a bit from relocation clients is that Bellevue feels familiar, especially for people moving from larger metro areas. It has that polished, modern feel that many people are already comfortable with. Now, another group that tend to gravitate towards Bellevue are people who want newer construction. Not that Kirkland doesn't have new construction, because it absolutely does, but Bellevue has seen a tremendous growth over the last decade, and there are a lot of newer developments throughout the city, especially around downtown Bellevue and the Spring District. And honestly, if your dream is walking out of a luxury condo, grabbing a coffee downstairs, and having restaurants, shopping, and parks all within walking distance, Bellevue may be exactly what you're looking for. Now, that doesn't mean Bellevue is only for professionals or people who want an urban lifestyle. Not at all. There are plenty of great residential neighborhoods throughout Bellevue that feel much quieter and more suburban. Areas like Newport Hills, Eastgate, Lake Hills, and parts of East Bellevue can offer a completely different experience than what you'll find downtown. So when people think Bellevue, don't automatically picture skyscrapers and office buildings. There's a lot more variety here than most people realize. My take, if I had to sum up Bellevue in one sentence, I'd say it's probably best fit for someone who wants convenience, amenities, and easy access to everything the Eastside has to offer. It's one of those cities that checks a lot of boxes for a lot of different people. Now, on the flip side, there are plenty of people who tour Bellevue and like it, but then they spend some time in Kirkland and immediately connect with the atmosphere there. So let's talk about who I think Kirkland is really best suited for. Now let's talk about who I think Kirkland is really best suited for. And honestly, Kirkland is one of those cities that people tend to fall in love with pretty quickly. I've had plenty of clients over the years who are convinced they wanted Bellevue, and then we spend an afternoon walking around downtown Kirkland, grabbing a coffee, walking the waterfront, checking out a few neighborhoods, and then suddenly their search entirely changes. There's just something about the atmosphere. Now, if you're someone who values community, walkability, and being close to the water, Kirkland can be a really special place to live. One of the things I hear all the time from people who live in Kirkland is that it feels connected. People are out walking, the parks are busy, the waterfront is active, the restaurants and coffee shops feel local. It really just has that strong sense of community that a lot of people are looking for when they relocate here. I also think Kirkland is a great fit for buyers who want a little more balance. You still have easy access to Bellevue, Redmond, and Seattle. You're still close to major employers. You're still getting all the benefits of living on the east side. But when you get home, things tend to feel a little more relaxed, a little less busy, a little less corporate. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they're looking for. Now, another thing I really like about Kirkland is the variety of neighborhoods. Whether you're looking in Juanita, Finn Hill, Kingsgate, Rose Hill, Totem Lake, Houghton, or downtown Kirkland, each area has its own personality. Some offer lake views, some offer larger lots, some offer walkability. Some feel tucked away in residential, so there's quite a bit of flexibility depending on your lifestyle and budget. And if being near the water is important to you, Kirkland is honestly hard to beat. Having Lake Washington woven throughout the city creates a completely different experience than what you'll find in most Eastside communities. There are very few places where you can spend the morning grabbing a coffee, walk along the waterfront, have lunch overlooking the lake, and then be at Microsoft or downtown Bellevue just a short drive later. And that's one of the reasons Kirkland continues to be so popular. All right, so my take, if I had to sum up Kirkland in one sentence, I'd say it's a great fit for someone who wants the Eastside convenience without giving up that waterfront community feel. It offers a lifestyle that's a little more relaxed, a little more connected to the outdoors, and for a lot of people, that's exactly what makes it so appealing. So after comparing home prices, commutes, parks, restaurants, downtowns, and overall lifestyle, the big question becomes, which one is actually better? And honestly, the answer might not be what you expect. And honestly, I think that's the wrong question, because after helping hundreds of people buy homes around the Seattle area, I've learned that there's usually not one city that's objectively better than another. It's more about finding the city that fits the lifestyle that you're looking for. If you're someone who values convenience, wants to be in the middle of everything, enjoys having endless shopping and dining options nearby, and likes the idea of being centrally located on the east side, then Bellevue's probably going to be tough to beat. You've got incredible amenities, you've got great parks, you've got easy access to major employers, and you've got a city that continues to grow and evolve every single year. But if you're someone who wants a little more character, loves being near the water, enjoys walkable neighborhoods, and is looking for a community that feels a little more relaxed, Kirkland is incredibly hard not to love. There's just something about being able to spend time along the waterfront, walk through downtown Kirkland, grab a coffee, and enjoy everything Lake Washington has to offer. That really sets it apart. And honestly, if you ask me what surprises relocation buyers the most, It's usually how different these two cities feel despite being so close together. On paper, they're both East Side cities with great schools, beautiful neighborhoods, strong home values, and access to major employers. But once you actually spend time in them, you realize Bellevue feels more like the East Side's urban center, while Kirkland feels much more like a waterfront community. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong, they're just different. And the good news is, there really isn't a bad choice here. Both cities consistently rank among the most desirable places to live in the Pacific Northwest, and both offer an incredible quality of life. My advice, if you're considering either of these cities, don't just look at homes online, come spend a day in both. Walk downtown Bellevue, walk downtown Kirkland, grab a coffee, visit the parks, drive the commute, explore a few neighborhoods, because sometimes it only takes a couple of hours in a city before you realize, yep, this feels like home. And if you're thinking about making a move to Bellevue, Kirkland, or anywhere around the Seattle area, feel free to reach out anytime. My team and I help people relocate here all the time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have, help you narrow down neighborhoods, or point you in the right direction based on your budget, commute, and lifestyle goals. Whether you're planning a move next month or next year, all of our contact information is in the description below. We'd love to help make your move to the Seattle area as smooth as possible. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know down in the comments, which city would you choose, Bellevue or Kirkland? Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.